How's it going? This is Combat Sports with Intellect. We will be discussing the HBO boxing after dark fights. The Lucas Matisse versus I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correctly, but Tiwa Kiram. But first, we will be discussing the co-main event, which was Jorge Linares versus Mercito Hesta. It was a good fight. It went to decision. Linares was the champion. He retained his title. He dominated most of the fight by his range and his combination punches. It seemed like Hesta, especially in the first round, had the speed advantage as far as like in certain areas of in certain ranges, he seemed to be getting off more, but he just wasn't fluid and he just seemed to take a good shot and kind of like egg him on and not not let off his hands enough. But whenever he did let off, it was good. It was a really good fight. There was some really good, interesting rounds in there. It was really back and forth. It was very technical, and Linares showed his skills in that fight a lot by the way he evaded punches and came back and landed clean shots. Wasn't phased by the showmanship. So it was a good fight all around. Linares is looking to fight either Mikey Garcia, which I think he will get destroyed by Mikey Garcia. That is a different realm of fighters right there. He would not last more than 8 rounds with Mikey Garcia, or Lomachenko, who I also think he won't last more than 8 or 10 rounds with Lomachenko either. I just, I, but I see him a better matchup with Lomachenko than Mikey Garcia, mostly because Lomachenko is a smaller fighter. Mikey Garcia is a bigger fighter who hits harder and is more of a not seek and destroy, but he destroys you. He doesn't seek and destroy you, but he destroys you at the end of the day. So a good win on Linares, retaining his belt, defending his title, and Hesta, tough game fighter. Few wins, he could come back, go for another title shot. All right, so we will be going into a very controversial fight in the main event, which is Lucas Matisse versus Tiwa uh, Hiram or Kiram. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. It ended by eighth round knockout. The first round, Kiram was really establishing his jab. In fact, by the time of the stoppage, it was a rather even fight. Um, Matisse had some rounds. Karam had some rounds. Karam was dominating with his straight jab. Not straight, his jab and his straight. Also using his distance. Whenever he let off his straight, he was landing clean. It seemed like Matisse was having problems with the height and the speed, but he was coming over at Karam's jab, which wasn't coming back correctly. He was kind of leaving it out there, and commentators were discussing that. One thing I had a problem with this is the problem I have with HBO. Is why I call it H biaso. They were calling this fight boring at times, and no part was this fight boring. There were a lot of movements, but like as far as moving around, but they were teeing off on each other every round. They were landing clean shots every round. It wasn't as technical as the first fight, but there were still landing hard shots, landing often, and it was getting better. The fight was building up. You know what I mean? There was plenty of rounds in the previous fight which were kind of like dull rounds. It's just like it started heating up and stayed heated up throughout most of the fight. So it's in hindsight, you kind of forget those rounds which were kind of boring. They're even saying many times, people talk about the spectacular knockouts, but they don't talk about the boring rounds before that where nothing really happens. Roy Jones was saying something which I do agree on. Lucas Matisse wasn't looking as sharp with his punches, but I think that's more attributed to the fact that he has problems with taller fighters. As you remember, Postal beat him. Like Postal beat him down. It was really just with his jab and his distance. Same thing this guy was doing. He just wasn't on the level of Postal. And there was the controversy about this fight was the fact that at some point, I think it was in the third round or the fourth round. I'm not sure exactly what round it was, so don't quote me on that. Should have looked it up. That's my fault. Because I'm just going off the memory of just seeing it last night. Karam's corner had him sniffing something, and then the referee saw it, confiscated it, gave it to the doctor, or the doctor confiscated it, and they went to test it, and it was weird because after that, Karam kind of did get kind of a boost, but then he did crash, and that's around the time he got knocked out. People were wondering what that substance was, and it turned out to be Tiger Balm, which isn't a big deal, but it was just kind of odd. So there's that. Other than that, yeah, it was a good fight. You know, it just seemed after a while the guy just broke. He both of the times he got dropped, it really was a jab and a delayed reaction. For this, after this, Lucas Matisse called out Manny Pacquiao or a rematch with Danny Garcia, who is fighting Brandon Rios, which I actually think that should be the fight to make because it's a better fight than Brandon Rios. Because Brandon Rios is coming off of being stopped and retired. It's not a good fight for Danny Garcia to be taken after the Keith Thurman loss. If he takes the rematch with Matisse, that'd be a good fight for both of them. The winner could go on and welterweight title contention. Some good, interesting fights coming up, and that was all around a good night of fights for HBO. It just like again the commentating was very biased with the it's a boring fight and then out of nowhere it starts heating up and a knockout. And this concludes Combat Sports with Intellect. Y'all have a good day.